There we go. So, my friends, it was the night before Christmas. This book is really huge, by the way, for no reason. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled up, all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums were danced in their heads. And Mama in her kerchief, and I in my cap, had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn, there rose such a clatter, I sprang from the bed to see what was the matter. I waved to the window, I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters, and threw up the stash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave the luster of midday to the objects below. When, what to my wondering eyes would appear, but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, with a little old driver, so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. More rapid than eagles, his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted them, called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away all! As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the housetop, the coursers they flew, with the sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then, in a twinkling, I heard on the roof a prancing and pawing of 8 little hoof. As I drew in my head, and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He fell, by the way, you know that man just fell and almost died. He was dressed all in fur, from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished, ashes and soot. With a bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler who just opened his sack. His pack. I bet they changed the lyrics. I bet they changed the words in the book. I don't know why. His eyes, how they twinkled. His dimples, how merry! His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe, and he held tight in his teeth. The smoke encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him, in spite of myself. A wink in his eye, and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings. Then he turned with a jerk, and laying up his finger aside his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like a down of a whistle. But I heard him exclaim, as he drove out of sight, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Apparently there's a little activity where you can find every little mouse in each individual page. I'm good. Still one of my very favorite books. And now my favorite book of all time. Perfect. Absolutely. This is what I wanted here. This is what I wanted. Now, my favorite book of all time, my friends. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. So many pages for an introduction. For Teddy Owens, apparently. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be that his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. But I think the most likely reason of all, that may have been his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there outside. This music's loud. He stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Who's. Staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown. at the warm lighted windows below in the town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now, hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here. Then he growled, with his grinchy fingers nervously drumming, I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. But tomorrow he knew all the Who girls would wake up bright and early, including the boys. They rushed for their toys, and then, the noise. Noise. That's one thing he hated. The noise. Then the Who's young and old would sit down to a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast. They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast, which is something the Grinch could not stand in the least. And then they'd do something he'd like least of all. For every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together, with Christmas bells ringing. They stand hand in hand, and the Who's would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this whole Who Christmas thing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Well, for the 53 years I put up with it now, I must stop Christmas from coming. But how? And then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat. He made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat, and he chuckled and clucked, what a great Grinchy trick. With this coat and this hat, I'll look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. But did that stop the Grinch? Ha! No! The Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max. Then he took some small red thread, and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, "Get up!" And the sleigh started down towards the homes where the Who's lay a snooze in the town. All the windows were dark. Quiet snow filled the air. All the Who's were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house on the square, "This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed. And he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fists. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once, for a moment or two. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who's stocking all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, who wouldn't know. And he took every presents, popguns, bicycles, roller skates and drums, checkerboard, tricycles, popcorns and plums, and he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. Slunk! He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beef. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took the last can of Who hash. What the hell's a can of Who hash? I don't even want to know what it is. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I must stuff up the tree. And then the Grinch grabbed the tree. He started to shove, when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. When he turned around fast, and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou Who, who was no more than 2. The Grinch has been caught by his tiny Who daughter, who got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, "Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree?" "Why?" But you know. The old Grinch was so smart and so slick. He thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet little tot," the fake Santa Claus lied. "There's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, and I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. And the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On the walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then, and only then, he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. It was 1:15 dawn. All the Who's still abed, all the Who's still snooze, when he packed up his sled, packed up the presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags and the tinsels, the trimmings and the trappings. 1,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet. Not the chimney. No chimneys up. There's no chimneys up in the Mount Crumpet. Maybe. I don't know. He rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Pooh-pooh to the Who's. He was grinchishly humming. That's an awkward one. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're waking up now, and I just know what they'll do. The mouth will all hang up a moment or two, and then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry, "Boo-hoo!" That's the noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. And so he paused. And the Grinch put a hand on his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low. Then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sounded merry. It couldn't be so. But it was merry. Very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without a presence at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours, till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Hoover, they say, the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel so quite tight, he whistled with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast, and he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beef. And with that, my friends, I want to wish you guys a very, very Merry Christmas. For those who stuck around, thank you so much for being here. Keep your families close. Love each other. And if you don't know who they are, simply say hi. You don't know what they're going through. Life has been very interesting, and I couldn't have done it without my friends, my family, what's left of it. Most importantly, the Lady Assassin, my Lady Assassin. She's the reason why I am to this day. So spread some Christmas cheer this year. Love each other. I wish you all the happiest of holidays, the merriest of Christmases, and a Happy New Year. And with that, my friends, stay frosty, my fellow assassins. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys, and a Merry Christmas. Which button is it? There you go. Merry Christmas.